Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hello, and welcome to So You're Thinking About Being a Chief of Staff. My name is Leigh Felton, and this is where we talk about all things Chief of Staff. And although the title might say So You're Thinking About It, it's not just for people who are considering the Chief of Staff role, it's also for people who are currently chiefs of staff, for people who partner with chiefs of staff, and also for individuals who are looking to hire chiefs of staff. I've had all types of individuals come into this podcast and just, ask all kinds of questions that, believe it or not, you're not the only one who is, whatever question you have in your head, there's probably, 10, 20, 50 other people who have a similar question. So this is the opportunity for us to engage and have those conversations. We have a lot to cover today because, as I promised on LinkedIn, we are going to talk about the rhythm of the business, or as some people call it, the rhythm of operations program. And I just want to make sure that everybody over on Chief, that you have an opportunity to also engage in the dialogue. And so, although you might be able to hear me, you most definitely are welcome to join on the LinkedIn Live or the YouTube channel, so you can actually have questions as well. So we're going to start like we always start. Hello, LinkedIn user. Good morning. Good morning. Definitely tell me hi. Let me know, as I've said many, many times before. Let me know that you're out there. I'm one of those individuals that, when I have these types of things, I try not to take things too seriously these days, but I like to have a conversation with people, because on the other side of this camera, there are people who took the time out of their schedules, out of their days, out of their lives to spend this 30 minutes with me. And so, in addition to you knowing me, I'd like to take this opportunity to also know you. So tell me that you're out there. Who are you? Where are you from? Why did you tune in? And so, while everybody hopefully is taking a moment to say hi and letting me know you're there, I am going to do something that I haven't done on the show before. I'm going to share another screen. Now let's see if I can do this gracefully. So I actually had two polls running this week on LinkedIn. The first poll was specifically related to this talk that we're going to have today. It was specifically about the rhythm of the business program. And for those who are familiar with it, because there's lots of people who aren't even familiar with what a rhythm of the business program is, and I'll provide that explanation in a minute. But the poll was for those who who understand the rhythm of the business program. What do you think is the most important element? So everything that the things that I list in my polls, people say, well, it's that, and it's that, and it's that. Yes, of course. I'm not making things easy. I'm not saying that it's going to be, multiple choice and there's going to be one obvious answer. For most of my polls, it's all of the above. And so that's why I try to capitalize and highlight the most, or the most significant, because although everything is truly important, sometimes we do have to prioritize, and we have to think, if we were to do one thing exceptionally great, what would that be? And so that's one of the things that I asked this week. So if you haven't had a chance to check out that poll, I'm very curious to get your answers on that. But for this one, the one that I thought was interesting, I was having a conversation with someone about boredom, because I will admit I get bored. But I was having a conversation with somebody about boredom, and they were quoting some philosopher, some wise person who once said that truly intelligent people never get bored. And so I decided to put that question out there to the audience, because I'm not going to argue whether or not I consider myself truly intelligent. I think that there are different forms of intelligence, and I think some people have different types of intelligence. But so I'm not going to argue what true intelligence means. But I was very curious to see how people thought about that statement, that if you're truly intelligent, that basically you can always find something and ways to occupy your brain, to occupy your thoughts, to stay busy or to get creative. And so I'm very curious. This is going to be our question to kick things off today. Do you believe that truly intelligent people should not get bored? So what are your answers? So while you are thinking about the answers to that question, I am going to go back and see who has said good morning or good afternoon or good evening and hi to me. So hi. And it always happens. LinkedIn user is what it shows up on my screen while I'm doing the podcast. But after the podcast is over on the real LinkedIn recording, it will show your name. So I'll get to actually see your name. So hello, LinkedIn user. Hello from Denver, Colorado. Hello, Sylvana. You're from Dubai. Yes, I remember. I think you joined us here before. We've had people from all over the place, and I sincerely appreciate you joining us from Dubai. Hello from Europe, Daniela. What else do we have? Good afternoon. Thank you for your insights. Oh, yes, I was on the Black AI think tank. Stefan Youngblood hosts those. Gosh, I think he does it about monthly, and so, or a couple times a month. It's a Black AI think tank that I'm part of that dives into for people in Black communities, not just for Black people, but this is something that we all have to think about, but for people in Black communities, how is AI technology impacting them? Part of that dives into for people in Black communities. I am not sure what that is. If you heard that, I always have technical difficulties. It's nothing new. But yes, so I was on the Black AI think tank last night. Hi, Tanya, Los Angeles. Hello, Seattle. Seattle's in the house. I'm actually in Woodinville right now. If you see all the trees behind me, that's beautiful Woodinville, Washington. Hi, Leonida, Lake Forest, Illinois. And hello from Chicago. So does anybody have thoughts about this question? Can truly intelligent people get bored? What do you think? Okay. Am I not going to get any answers? Teresa, Chicago, nice to see you. Wondering where my Arizona folks are, and Alaska, Canada. I normally have a couple of people that regularly join us from those locations. So I just want to make sure that I can say hi to them as well. So Savannah says they will get bored, but they'll find a way to get creative and still stay productive. Okay. Intellect doesn't thwart boredom. Talisha, that's what you're thinking. Hello, Sheila from Texas, from Dallas area. Okay. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here. I was quite surprised actually in the poll that it was about 50-50. So if you think, these types of things really amaze me sometimes, because you might think there is an ultimate truth. There is an ultimate answer to some of these questions, because in our own perspectives, it's so obvious, right? So for some people, it's like, of course they get bored. They're human. Of course they get bored. And to some people, it's like, oh no, if you truly have things going on up there and you can take, all of that creativity and that innovation, you're going to entertain yourself. So there is no ultimate truth. And I like to do these types of things to remind people there is no ultimate truth. And thank goodness we all think differently. We experience differently. Our personal experiences and lived lives, they matter in all of the work we do. And so that is my 2 cents this morning. That I just love it that people think so differently, and that there is no ultimate right or wrong. That how you think and how you perceive life or the world, that is so additive to innovation. The more people that you have that think differently and that have these different perspectives on things, the more we're going to really be able to provide, new innovative creations for, broader sets of society. Okay. So let's just jump in. So today I said I was going to talk about the rhythm of the business. And so that's what we're talking about. I know we don't have a lot of time, and this is one of those topics that is not a 10-minute, 15-minute, 20-minute conversation. But the purpose of me bringing this to this forum is to make sure that as we think about a rhythm of the business program, that I want to challenge your thinking a little bit. And so let's first talk about what is a rhythm of the business program. So rhythm of the business program, should we start with what it's not? How many of you, raise your hand, I'm not going to see it, but raise your hand anyway. How many of you think a rhythm of the business program is a calendar that keeps everybody in LT meetings, in business reviews, in finance reviews? And I'll just give you a hint. It's not. That's a rhythm of the business calendar. So a rhythm of the business calendar is an element of a rhythm of the business program, but the calendar itself is not the actual rhythm of the business program. And the reason that's important is because so many people get confused that a rhythm of the business is this tactical thing that you can check a box on and that you can track. It's not. A true rhythm of the business program, just like any program we run in our organizations, for our organizations, it is a concept that pulls many, many different people and teams together to get them aligned under this centralized, set of activities. And so that's your rhythm of the business program. And one of the things that I like to talk about is when it comes to rhythm of the business, it's about establishing a predictive and consistent set of processes, tools, templates, meetings, conversations. It's about setting those predictable and consistent things up because fires will always happen. It's not about eliminating fires. It's about reducing chaos in areas where you can be very proactive in putting rhythms in place. And so when I talk about a rhythm of the business program, what I'm talking about is exactly that. It's that set of activities and meetings and teams and programs and processes that help you keep your business on track. And the way to think about this is that for your rhythm of the business program, and let me just go to a slide that I think will help. There we go. So for your rhythm of the business program, one of the things that you have to consider, and this is how I lay it out, in every organization is going to be different. So this is not the ultimate. This is the way from a product. So I come from technology. I come from, large tech companies, right? So from a company that does products, this is the way that I typically go in and outline a rhythm of the business program. That I think about what is my full fiscal year. So it doesn't matter if my fiscal year runs calendar year to calendar year, January to December. It doesn't matter. Some people's fiscal year starts in February. Some fiscal year starts in July. So it doesn't matter when your fiscal year starts. This goes off of your fiscal year, not the calendar year. Okay. And so as you think about your fiscal year, there are various times across that year that you need to be focused on specific activities. Now, it's not saying, and this is in no way saying, so as you think about, Q1, I typically, and maybe this goes across industries, I typically focus on people because in Q1, there's so many times where people just feel like, okay, Q1 is a waste. It's just trying to get you ramped up, just trying to start looking at, okay, what are our objectives? Let's make sure we're disseminating all the information. And so I feel like if you are ahead of the game and you're focusing on people in Q1, especially in month 1 of Q1, then you have an opportunity to get everybody on the same page. There's still activities and work and all those things that have to happen. But if you think about your rhythm of the business calendar, with all of those things that you're going to have in place. You're going to have your LT meetings. You're going to have your business reviews. You're going to have your board meetings. You're going to have your all hands or strategy memos. So all of these things are going to happen. How do you leverage those things to make sure Q1, to make sure that you're getting everybody as quickly as possible on the same page, up and running and ready to move that business forward? So by the time you hit month 2 of Q1, this isn't about, hey, what are we trying to do this year? What are our goals? What are our priorities? That by the time you hit month 2 in Q1, that people actually are equipped with the knowledge, the tools, the messaging, the content that they need in order to start actually delivering. And so to me, Q1 truly is about your people. All of the things, you still have to worry about your product. You still have to worry about your finances. You still have to worry about, your board, your leaders, your industry. It's not or. It's not or, it's and. And so as you prioritize some of these things, it truly does become additive. And so as I think about Q1, it truly is about getting your people. Q2, whatever your product is. And so, like I said, I come from high tech. And so products are normally apps or, other things like that. But whatever your product is, let's say you're in education, let's say you're in healthcare, let's say you're in, public sector, finance, whatever your it is, Q2. So your people are all on board. They know what they're doing. They know how they're driving. They know what what the organization wants to accomplish this year. And they know that what they are contributing is going to make impact to a bigger picture. So it's not that they're doing this in isolation. They can feel that the things that they contribute are additive to this bigger picture. And as you think about Q2 is the it. It's whatever your product is, whatever industry you're in. I'm not being so literal as I'm saying a product is a piece of software or hardware, but whatever your it is, Q2 is about making sure as your people are fully functioning, fully on board, they know how they're contributing, they know their role, that whatever it is that you need to do around your product, around your it, that it is stable in place, that it is making the right traction. Because as you think about, this is your first half, this is your first semester, your first half of the year, you get your people and your product, your it, stable, then that prepares you to then move to your second half of the year. And as I always think about Q3, by the time you get to Q3, it's already, again, time to start thinking about planning for the next fiscal. Isn't that interesting how that happens? It's like you can barely get through a year before you have to think about your next year. And that's completely okay, because you have various layers of the organization who are delivering. You have people that are focusing on the current year. But where I'm coming from is, as a chief of staff, as the executive office, as your leadership team liaison and lead, this is the hat that you need to have on in terms of how you're orchestrating the way you're running your business, right? And so then you get into Q3 and it's okay. We had our people on board. They know what they're doing. We have our it, our product. We know where we're going feature-wise or market-wise, or wherever it is that we are trying to penetrate. We know what our it is. So by Q3, you know where you need to start making adjustments, right? So you have already gone through that first half implementation. You need to do a mid-year adjustment to say, okay, what can we accomplish in this current? So as we have one half of the year left, what can we accomplish in the rest of this current year? But if we're being realistic, what did we say or think that we could accomplish this year that is not going to happen and we need to push it into the next fiscal. So that's when you start thinking about your strategy. What is it that you can realistically do this year? Where do you need to adjust? Maybe even you're ahead of you're ahead of the game. And so, you thought you were going to be able to do some things next fiscal, but you're able to bring them forward and do it this fiscal. And so that Q3 period is a critical time to say, where are we? Are we being realistic? How do we make sure that we're not just, delivering and being short-sighted for this fiscal, but that we're also now starting to think about next fiscal? And then Q4, the end of the year, it all comes down to the money, right? Because your money says, how have you delivered this year? How are your targets? How are your goals from a financial perspective? Because then in Q4 is when you do the hard work of saying, what is our financial position and status going to be as we then launch another fiscal year? So the second half of your year, in addition to delivering and finishing up the current fiscal year, the second half of your fiscal has to be focused on your next fiscal, on your next set of strategies for the next year, because then come Q1 of the next fiscal year, it's about your people and everything that you put in place for Q3, your strategy, and Q4, your budget. You then have an opportunity to start in Q1 of getting everybody aligned. And it's a cycle. It's a cycle. And as it is, I'm making it as simplified as I can. It is not simple. This is very complex. And if you can do it right in your organization, you will be amazed at how things just fall into place. Some of the consulting that I do with various teams and in leadership teams is specifically around how do we get this predictable, consistent set of rhythms in place. And so we know we meet every Wednesday, every Thursday, whatever your cadence is for your leadership team, right? So you have a regular cadence for your leadership team. You either meet weekly, you meet, every other week. I would hope your leadership team meets more than once a month, but let's say you're a leadership team that meets once a month. There are things that need to happen in accordance with where you are in the quarter, where you are in the year, that you can pre-plan. So for instance, when I set up Rhythm of the Business programs, I know that, if I think about our quarterly targets, I know when those come in. Those typically come in about the second week of the first month of the next quarter. So that means I need to have my financial review always in my LT meeting that second week of the first month of each quarter. And so that is just a placeholder in my LT agenda that I know we need to have that conversation. I know we have quarterly board meetings. So I know when those board meetings take place. Of course, there's going to be adjustments. But because we have quarterly board meetings, there's a work back that needs to happen. So I know we need to have certain conversations, whether it's in the LT meeting or whether it's, side meetings or one-on-one meetings. I know we need to have those conversations at certain times of the year, right? So there's things that you can put in place. You don't have to say, oh, we have a board meeting next month. What are we going to talk about? Oh, we have our quarterly business review or our yearly strategy reviews coming up. Let's start working on that. This is all things that if you put it in place and you get a regular cadence of these things going, then by the time you get to that end of your strategy review or that quarterly board meeting, you already have the content. You already have the templates. There's adjustments here and there that need to be made. But these are things that should not be fires. They should not be adding chaos and additional stress to your teams. And so you need to get ahead of that. This was so quick. And I'm sure, as you can see, even from the very highlight circle, the wheel, the Rhythm of the Business wheel, as I call it, there's a lot to it. But having the right business manager. So I typically, as a chief of staff, I have a person that is very tactical that will help to put some of these structures in place. And there's tools as well that you can use. But having a very deliberate set of rhythms in the way you think about your year, believe me, It's not only as an executive team going to make your life easier, but for your organization, it is going to help them feel like my executive team, the leaders that are taking us where we need to go, they have it together. I know what to expect, and I feel like I'm being included. Your rhythm of communications is an overlay on top of that. We'll talk at some point about a rhythm of communications, but your rhythm of communications and how you are disseminating information, whether that is up, whether that is out to your org, or whether that is even to the industry, is an overlay of your rhythm of the business. Okay, so let's go to questions or other thoughts. So what do we have here? Okay, so as an adult, I think experience is okay. I like the framework, Leigh, super, yet macro and organized. It is. And this is the cool thing about that type of framework, that the way that I present, and that was only one very small element of the full rhythm of the business, but it's part of the work that I do to educate people on what a rhythm of the business program is, because there's too many individuals that take a spreadsheet. They'll take an Excel file and with, day by day by day by day by day meetings and all these things. The purpose of the rhythm of the business program is not about the meetings. It's not that you have your LT meeting every Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday. It's not that you have a monthly business review, the last Friday of every month. It's not about the what. Okay. It's not about the what meetings you have. It's about, actually, if I were to correct myself, it's about the what. It's about the content. So I don't know if that's the what, the how, the why. I think we go back to that intelligence conversation. I don't pretend to be, the truly intelligent person, but it's about the content that you're discussing in those meetings. The fact that you have an LT meeting every Thursday, and that you're running around chasing an agenda for those LT meetings every Thursday, does not mean that you have a rhythm of the business program, that you know what you need to talk about in those LT meetings at certain points of the year. And of course, you need to leave buffer space because there's different programs and things that happen, but you know what you need to talk about at those meetings at different times of the year. That's a rhythm of the business program. That is a strategic operational framework, which is different than your calendar, which for anybody that did answer that survey, and if you haven't, again, answered the survey, please go through it. Again, it's somewhat of a trick survey in that I all of the things that I put on there, that you have a transparent org-wide rhythm of the business calendar was one, that you have LT sponsors, exec sponsors for many of those programs, that you have OKR reviews or KPI reviews. And then the last one was, the last choice was that you have cross-team ownership and effort. So of course, if you look at all of those things, if you've ever implemented a rhythm of the business, gosh, how do I choose what is the most important? I personally said, number one, your org-wide calendar is the most important. And the reason I said that's the most important is because that is holding you accountable. If you are publishing and being transparent that this is how we operate, this is what we're putting in place, and this is what our teams can expect from us, then all of those other things, in my opinion, all of those other things will fall in place. You'll have your regular OKR reviews. You'll have LT members who are saying, gosh, I need to stand up and make sure that this is happening because my teams are going to hold me accountable. And everybody feels like they're part of it. They see all of the pieces coming together, and so they feel they're part of it. So to me, the transparent layer with your organization is super critical in putting together a great program. So let's see, what else do we have? Yes, this framework is valuable, Leigh, full of years and wisdom. Thank you, Diane. I faced that last year. We struggled to achieve Q1 objectives due to all of the business stuff as usual. It's going to happen. The business stuff as usual, it's not going anywhere. So why not put a framework in place where you can just address it and approach it head on? That when there's things you need to fit in, you have that ability to fit it in. But when there's fires and there is true chaos that's going to happen, you have the breath still left in you to manage that as well. Okay, so we are almost out of time. You referenced the business manager that performs tactical tasks. It's the chief of staff role need to perform these tasks initially. So, okay, we are out of time, but I'll answer this question real quickly. So there's various, and of course, it depends on the organization. It depends on the industry. It depends on the person. It depends on the leader, right? Whether or not you are a chief of staff that has a team. So at this point, I typically, as an executive level chief of staff, like I said, to me, the chief of staff role is a CXO position. It's a CXO position on the leadership team. And so I believe that if you have a true executive level chief of staff, then yes, that person does need a team, because the strategic operations and programs like these types of things that I just mentioned that you're putting in place, you need to be able to have people that can tactically go deliver it. There are some teams that are in some organizations that are way too small to have a chief of staff and a business manager. And so, yes, there's things that the business manager needs to be hands-on with. And so I'm never afraid to dive in with two hands where I need to, but I also don't use the chief of staff role as a tactical implementer. And I talk about chiefs of staff who are chasers. And so that's basically things that, chiefs of staff who are catchers. And so that's basically a chief of staff that is not the strategist and saying, okay, this is how we need to do it. This is how we need to operate. But instead, they're being told, go put this in place. We need, I was in a meeting earlier talking about performance reviews. We need a performance review system. We need feedback. We need an all hands meeting. We need a town hall. Go put those things in place. That is a catcher chief of staff. And so at the catcher level, then yes, you're going to be very tactical in running around putting a lot of things in place. But as the executive strategic chief of staff, it's very important that you take a different level, and that you're not just catching what people want you to do, but that you are the orchestrator. You are the line of business owner that says, this is how we need to operate as an organization in order to be successful, and in order to ensure that every person on our team knows the impact that they're making to the greater vision and the greater picture. Okay. We are out of time, but I absolutely love these conversations, and I love the engagement. It is really valuable for me to have these conversations and to use this time as an opportunity to do that peer mentoring. I know I get a lot of people who ask after these sessions, who ask for separate time for coaching. I actually do coaching. A lot of people don't want to pay for it, but I do coaching if there are teams that are interested in hiring a coach. But for the peer mentoring, I love people to participate in this. I want to give my time. I want to really educate people about the chief of staff role and experience, and how wonderful it is. And so please be sure to tune in to these sessions. If you have any questions about the chief of staff and you want to, have this dialogue and this conversation. So they happen every 2 weeks, and I look forward to seeing you. I think I've already scheduled the next session. It's on the calendar. I already put it in LinkedIn. So feel free to register for that session, as well as they are recorded. So if you want to go back and look at previous sessions, you can do that as well. Until next time, I sincerely appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you in a couple of weeks. Bye.